Now we will discuss three-stepped distance protection. See, backup protection in distance relay is made possible by stepped distance protection or step distance characteristics, and this is the most commonly used backup protection scheme for high voltages or extra high voltage transmission line. In this scheme of protection, the distance relay has three zones of protection. So if you look at this figure, this relay which is shown here is a distance relay, and this relay is having three zones of protection written as Z1, Z2 and Z3. So in the three-stepped distance protection, the relay is set to protect line in three steps with suitable time delay between each step for backup. Now, the three-stepped distance protection or the three-zone protection is required because the properties of conductor may change due to temperature. As the impedance is measured by V and I from CTs and PTs respectively, and their properties can also show some errors. Tripping also needs to be avoided by the distance relay if it is located close to the bus so that it may not trip for the adjoining section. Therefore, it is not advisable to set the reach of relay distance protection to 100%. If the reach of distance relay is adjusted to 100%, then overreach will cause loss of selectivity with the distance protection of the next section. So this cannot be tolerated in the case of extra high voltage lines. So therefore it is a usual practice to set the reach of distance protection to about 80 to 90% of the line section. This will leave 20 to 10% of line without primary protection. So therefore a comprehensive scheme of distance protection is evolved, providing the primary protection to the line section under consideration as well as backup to the next line section. So the first step, the three steps has been mentioned. The step number one, the set in the step number one, the reach of the relay is set to 80% to 90% of the length of the line section, which is mentioned in the diagram as 0.8 to 0.9 of the line length. That is the section first, that is ZAB. And this is also an instantaneous protection, that is there is no intentional time delay, and usually the operating time of the zone 1 is close to 1 cycle. This we can see on the lower diagram, that is the time has also been written here. So the for this particular relay, distance relay, in the first zone, that is Z1, it is instantaneously operating, and this is a line under consideration which has been shown here. The second step of distance protection, that is zone 2 protection, identified as Z2, is required in order to provide primary protection to the remaining 10% of the line which is left out in the first step. In addition, it is also set to cover up the 50% of the next line section. And the reason for doing this is to extend the reach, that is, it should provide some backup to the next line section, including the bus. And in the event of maximum underreach, it should still be able to cover the bus fault at the bus between the two lines. So if we want to calculate the operating time for this step, then it is written as operating time of the step 2 will be equal to operating time of the step 1 plus the selective time interval, that is delay is provided. So the selected time interval will be the circuit breaker operating time plus the relay over travel time. If there are more than one adjoining line, then the second step should extend up to 50% into the shortest adjoining line. Now, in the third step protection, that is identified as a zone Z3, it is provided with an intention to give full backup protection to the adjoining line section. It covers the line section under consideration, that is the section AB, plus 100% of the next line section, and reaches further into the system. This table shows the complete philosophy of a three-step distance protection. The first step, second step, and third step, also known as Zone 1, Zone 2, and Zone 3. The purpose of Zone 1 is to provide the primary protection, and the reach of the relay is set to 0.8 to 0.9 of the section under consideration. The operating time is, there is no intentional time delay, so it's instantaneous. So we can say the time is nearly equal to 0 second. In the second step or the zone 2, the primary protection of the remaining section which is left in the first step, that is 20 to 10%. So the reach will be 100% of the line section under consideration. The line that was we have seen in the line diagram was ZAB plus 50% of the shortest adjoining line, that is the line BC. So we have to write here point ZAB plus 0.5 ZBC. The time will be instantaneous time plus the selective time interval, that is a time delay, that is denoted as T1 in the last slide on the diagram, lower diagram, and this is set as 0.2 to 0.5 seconds. The third step, also known as Z3, zone Z3, this provides the backup protection. Purpose is to provide backup protection, and the reach of the relay is 100% of line under consideration, that is the line ZAB, plus 100% of the longest adjoining line, that was the line BC, plus 10 or 20% of that line section, that is the section BC. So we can write ZAB plus 1.2 ZBC. The operating time is the time T1 plus the selective time interval denoted as T2 in the diagram, and this is nearly equal to 0.8 to 2 seconds. For the system that is shown here, there are 3 line sections designated as 1, 2 and 3, and there are 2 relays connected in each of the section. So each of the relay will be having 3-step zone distance protection if the relays are distance relays. So let us see for the relay R1. So for the relay R1, we have to identify the 3 zones. Similarly, we can mark the 3 zones for each of the relay connected in each of the section. For R1, the first zone of protection denoted as R1I is its reach is set up to the 80% as shown by the red line, 80% of this line section. For any fault occurring in this section, the relay will operate instantaneously. The second zone of protection of the relay R1 is a time delayed zone, and the delay time is of the order of 0.3 to 0.6 seconds. Any fault which is occurring in the R1, 2, which is indicated by black line, will be covering this section, 20% of the first section, plus it is extending to the second section up to 50%. So this is termed as the second zone of the protection provided by the relay R1. Now if we see the third step zone protection of the relay R1, or that is the third zone for the relay R1, then the third zone is denoted as R1 and 3, and this will act as a backup zone or the backup protection, and the delay in the third zone is around up to 1.2 to 1.5 or 2 seconds, and it will be covering the remaining 50% section which is left in the second step, that is in the zone 2, the 50% of the section 2 connected between the nodes B and C. It will be covered by R1 3, that is the third zone protection provided by the relay R1.